Hi everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. It's been a while. I've not posted in a hot minute, but today I bring you your ultimate guide to autumn and winter book recommendations, the perfect books for the cozy season. So get ready because we're going to do a lot of talking. So I'm going to break them down into category, and it's going to be romance, fantasy, and a bit of like thriller mystery, but not too many of those because I'm not really a connoisseur in that department. But let's get into it. Let's start with romance. This is my romance pile. I think there are some books that you can't even explain properly, but they're just books that you want to read, cozy on the couch, wrapped up with a blanket and a cup of coffee or a cup of tea or a cup of hot chocolate or whatever you want. And that's just their vibe. That's the vibe that you associate them with. And for me, I think though, when it comes to romances, like romances that I associate with cozy season would be more emotional romances. Not necessarily books that are set in winter or set in autumn, but books that have just got a more emotional tone to them. Now, Binding 13. I'm actually wearing a Binding 13 themed t-shirt. So, very fitting. Binding 13 and Keeping 13, the whole Boys of Tommen series really, I think is perfect for cozy season. I read it around this time last year, and it was exactly as I was saying before. I was cozy on the couch with a blanket and a hot drink, and it was very emotional. This book follows Johnny and Shannon, and they end up being at the same school together, and Shannon is having a really, really hard time, not just at school but also at home, and Johnny is like the popular, fit rugby player, and he's also absolutely lovely, and him and Shannon kind of hit it off, and it's kind of just following their story. I won't go into things and like give any spoilers or anything like that. I won't tell you anything that's not on the back, but it's set in Ireland, and it's very emotional. Check the trigger warnings, but it's just a book that I just associate with this time of year. So do with that information what you will. It is a big book, and the other books in the series are big books as well, but I can't stress enough that it's so worth it. And it's like 800 and odd pages, I think, but I ate it up and I wanted more. I ran to the second book straight away. So don't let the size of the book overwhelm you, because I think I see that quite often, is that people get intimidated by the size of this book, but don't let that put you off. Next, we have Last Night by Valerie McFarlane. This is the first and only book that I've read by this author, but I have actually met her. And the reason I then went and picked up this book was because when I met her and she was doing like a panel, like Q&A, she was hilarious. Like, she was so funny. And I thought, I want to read one of her books. And the first book I've read of hers is Last Night. And this is a 5-star read of mine. This is one of my favourite books that I've read so far this year. It's a very emotionally complex romance. We've got friendship, we've got tragedy, we've got grief, we've got love, we've got betrayal, we've got everything. We've got absolutely everything packed into this book. For me, the writing style is very similar to that of Emily Henry. Really, really beautiful. I saw actually, I think Emily Henry had said that she wishes that she'd written this book. So that's high praise. It's just so beautiful. And as well as being such a beautiful and emotionally complex story, it's also got a lot of humour in it and got a lot of banter in it. So for me, it's like the perfect recipe for a romance. Then we've got Ghosted by J.M. Darhower. This, if you love a second chance romance, you will absolutely love this book. This is my favourite second chance romance, and that is coming from someone that doesn't really like second chance romance that much, but I absolutely love this one. We've got the male main character who is an actor, and then we've got the female main character, and she is the single mum. They were together, they had a baby, and things happened. Not going to go into it, not going to spoil anything, and it's kind of all about him trying to get his life back on track and get his family back together, and it's kind of the mum and the child trying to be accepting of that, and it's just a lot, but it's very beautiful, it's very good, it's very well written. The whole thing, the communication, everything about it was just a really, really great book. Then I would recommend either A Novel Love Story or The 7 Year Slip by Ashley Poston. Both of these books are magical realism. and they are very whimsical, they are very romantic, they are very emotional, and again, perfect for this time of year. I love Ashley Poston's writing. I would say my favourite is definitely The 7-Year Slip. We follow the main character, Clementine. She moves into her aunt's apartment, and her aunt always used to tell her stories that like the apartment lived like 7 years in the past. Yeah, and it does, so hence the name, The 7-Year Slip. Not gonna go into it, but very, very good. Novel love story is basically, we've got our main character, she's driving away to this retreat that she goes to every year, and her car breaks down and she's stuck in this town, and this town is the town of her favourite romance book. The people in there are like exactly the same as the characters. So she's basically gotten stuck in her favourite romance book. Now, I wish that would happen to me. It's not ever happened, but I hope one day it does. But the vibes are absolutely so cute and so magical and so gorgeous. And then last but not least, this is actually categorised as a dark romance, and again, with any books ever, you should check the trigger warnings, but especially with this one. That is Still Beaten by Jennifer Hartman. The reason I'm recommending this for this time of year is because of how emotional it is. It is dark. There's a lot of trauma in this book. Do not go into this book without reading the trigger warnings. It is a lot. I read this in like the winter time, but I'm talking like earlier this year, like winter time. And I just think it was the perfect time of year to read that book. It's not really a book I would want to read in summer or anything like that. The book that stayed with me, I think about this book really, really often, and it basically follows our main characters, Cora and Dean. And Dean is engaged to Cora's sister. But one night, Dean and Cora get trapped in this situation together, and they have to kind of help each other through this situation, get each other out of this situation. It's a very, very traumatic and horrible situation, and it goes from there. Those are my romance recommendations. I think I kept that very brief for you, but let's move on to fantasy because I have quite a lot. Okay, the fantasy pile. So, first things first, the Book of Azreel. I've spoke about this so much. If you follow me on TikTok, you are probably absolutely sick to death of me talking about this, but I'll never stop. This is one of my favourite books ever. I would recommend this to you at any time of the year, to be quite honest, but I think autumn winter is just very fantasy heavy. I always read mostly fantasy around this time of year, so I can't really give you an explanation as to why I'm really recommending any of these books, other than the fact that they are fantasy, and I think fantasy is perfect for this time of year, and this is one of my favourite fantasy books of all time. Now, I always think with fantasy romance books, I think you either get the book is heavier on the fantasy or it's heavier on the romance. This, for me, was the absolute perfect balance of both, especially if you like slow burn as well, because I sometimes honestly think that tension is better than spice. Like, the spice doesn't necessarily matter if it hasn't had like a big build up. And when I say enemies to lovers, I mean enemies to lovers. And when I say morally grey FMC, I mean morally grey FMC. She is the most badass of all badass bitches, actually. I love her so much. The male main character, there are no words for how much I love him. The banter between them both as well, absolutely hilarious. The fantasy in it and the world building is absolutely great. I honestly can't sing this book's praises enough. If you haven't read this, you need to read this, honestly. It wouldn't be an Olivia West video if I didn't tell you to read the Throne of Glass series. I'm not going to talk about this for a long time because it's pretty much all I do. It's pretty much all I do. I will, however, say that if you are going to read this series, you should start with Assassin's Blade first. I'm an AB first girly, and I'll die on that hill. There are 8 books. It's incredible. It's the best series I've ever read. And I'm not going to say any more than that because I talk about that series too much. If you want a perfect, cosy, whimsical vibe, that would be Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies. I've actually seen so many mixed reviews on this book, but me personally, I had a really lovely time reading it. It wasn't a 5-star read for me. I'm not gonna get your expectations too high, but if you just want something that's so cozy and so whimsical and like you're inside a fairy tale, then this is what I would recommend to you. The setting of it is very wintry, like it's covered in snow. So again, that's a big part of why I'd recommend it for this time of year. Look at the cover as well, like you can just tell what the vibes are, right? To give you a little bit of what it's about is we've got Emily and she is like researching Fae. She goes to this Fae village and everyone there is kind of a bit grumpy with her and they don't really trust her. But obviously she kind of needs to break down their walls to get to know them and get to know about them and their lifestyle. And her kind of workplace rival, but in like a banterous way, turns up and there's an undertone of romance there. The romance is not too heavy, I don't think. But I just really enjoyed it. I had a fun time. It's not anything out of this world, but I had a fun time reading it. One Dark Window, gothic fantasy. Very different, very unusual, and very, very like a dark and mysterious vibe. And basically our main character has kind of got like this monster living inside her head. And in order to like kind of save herself and the kingdom or whatever, she has to like collect these cards. And there's a guy that's helping her collect these cards. And one thing about me, yeah, I'm terrible at explaining books without giving them away. So if you're wondering why I'm being very vague, that is why, because I'm trying not to ruin the experience for you. But I really, really enjoyed this. Another classic of mine, and that is Fourth Wing. Now, I know this might be a basic fantasy recommendation, but I honestly think if it ain't broke, don't fix it. This ticks all the boxes for me. This is so much fun. This is enemies to lovers. We've got Violet, who basically she's in this war college. She meets Xaden there. Xaden wants to kill her. I'm in love with Xaden, by the way, like literally in love with him, would marry him tomorrow. There's dragons. There's battle scenes. There's a plot twist at the end that I actually didn't see coming. I honestly think this book deserves all the hype it gets. I don't think it's overrated. I think it deserves every bit of hype it gets, and I couldn't recommend it more. And then I'll just give you one more fantasy recommendation, and that is The Serpent and the Wings of Night. This is book 1 of the Crowns of Nyaxia series by Carissa Broadbent, whose writing I absolutely really love. I think she's a great author. This is giving Hunger Games, high stakes, death trials. There's vampires in it. It's like a fight for survival. Basically, our main characters are in this kind of like Hunger Games style competition. If they win, they get granted like one wish in the whole entire world, like anything they want in the whole entire world. But yeah, kind of only one person can make it to that point. Only one person can get that wish. So it's high stakes, romantic, and it's great. And last but not least, we have got our very little thriller mystery pile. Because like I said before, I'm not really a connoisseur in that department, but I have dabbled in the area. So this is what I would recommend. First up, my favourite YA mystery of all time, and that is The Naturals. This is a 4-book series and it's by Jennifer Lynn Barnes, and it's one of my favourite series ever. I devoured this series. Again, a little brief overview. We've got this group of teenagers that have like a special set of skills each. Like our main character, Cassie, she's like a natural profiler. Like she can read people and read situations really well. One of the other girls is like she knows statistics like really, really well. They've all got like, each got like an individual really, really special skill. So they get taken on by the FBI to help the FBI solve cold cases. And it's so good. Honestly as well, like this book had me so shocked. Like there was a plot twist that maybe because I don't read the genre a lot, like I don't really guess the plot twist, but I genuinely was like, oh my God, what the hell? Like flabbergasted. And it's short as well. Really, really easy to fly through. There's like a little tiny bit of romance, like a side plot of romance. It's not really the main focus point, but it's fantastic. 4 books, and each book is like following a different case. And wow, it's incredible. It's incredible. Then for a dark academia vibe, we have got In My Dreams, I Hold a Knife. So this basically follows a group of friends in college, and one of the friends dies, and kind of the murder, it has gone unsolved. Anyway, years later, there's a college reunion and some people are not willing to let that unsolved murder go. So then we start to find out what happened. And this was just so twisty and turny. It really, really kept me on my toes. It really had me gripped. It was really fast paced. It's only short. It was a lot of fun. It was a roller coaster. I really, really enjoyed it. Never Lie by Freedom McFadden. I only read this recently, so if you would have seen my reading vlog in my previous video, I talk about this in quite a lot of detail, so I'm not going to go into it too much here, but I absolutely loved this. We've got our two main characters are a married couple. They go to view this house and they basically get snowed in at this house and loads of creepy stuff starts happening. I was really intrigued. I was really shocked. I had a great time. Highly recommend. And then last but not least, we have got The Family Upstairs by Lisa Jewell. I read this quite a while ago, to be honest, but I just remember it being like pretty creepy. But basically, the best way I can explain it is to just read you a bit off the bat. In a large house in London's fashionable Chelsea, a baby is awake in her cot. She's well fed and cared for, and she's waiting for someone to pick her up. In the kitchen lie 3 corpses. Close to them is a hastily scrawled note. They've been dead for several days. Who has been looking after the baby and where did they go? That kind of tells you everything you need to know, I think. I really enjoyed it and I recommend it. It was very creepy, to be honest, but I'm easily spooked. So do with that information what you will. But that is the end of my autumn winter cozy season recommendations. Like I said, there's not always really a specific reason as to why I think you should read those books at this time of year, but some books just give off that vibe, you know? Like some books are just summer books. Emily Henry books, they're summer books, you know? And these books that I've mentioned in this video, to me, they are cozy season books. I'm sure you'll enjoy them if you read them at any time of the year, but I think read them now. Just read them now. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you take some of my recommendations on board, or you agree with some of my recommendations. If you do read any, or if you do already love any of these books, please do let me know in the comments. It would be great. They all just fell. Yeah, but please do let me know in the comments if you read any recommendations from this video. And also let me know any other videos you want to see from me. I'm going to be more active now I'm like back in action. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, do what you need to do, and I will see you next time, hopefully.